Munich high-end 2024. So I walk past the CAYIN booth and I randomly sit where they stated that there is something new and special coming. And it was in front of this 40-kilogram beast. The moment I put the headphones on my head, my jaw was on the floor because this KT170 tube-based single-ended Class A vacuum tube amplifier was doing things I had never heard before in a tube amp, especially sub 10,000. So what were those things? Hi, I'm CoGCO. Welcome to ConvinceMeAudio. This is the Soul 170 HA from CAYIN. There's a lot to discuss. Special thank you goes out to CAYIN for sending this unit in for assessment. This unit, as you can see, is beautifully constructed, extremely heavy, 40 kilograms with its power supply. I'm going to try and get that on the table at the same time and see what happens. If it breaks, I do apologize. This unit, as you can see, is beautifully constructed, extremely heavy, 40 kilograms with its power supply. I'm going to try and get that on the table at the same time and see what happens. If it breaks, I do apologize. As you can see, it's a two-parter. This is the power supply, separated and connected to the unit via a dual umbilical cord connection, like the HA300 Mark IIs we reviewed here. That used a singular connection to connect the tube-based rectifier to the amplifier on a single cable. This one has two. 20 kilograms, fortunately you can separate it or you can put it on top of each other. For the reason I just mentioned, due to the weight, you really can't. So I'm going to explain what's here and then quickly get rid of it before it destroys the desk. This is the switching on and off of the unit, power button on the front of the unit. You've got this beautiful curved in design like this rectangular logo here, and a little bit dusty, and spinning the unit around. As you can see, you have the umbilical connections, two of them. That's it. You can actually place that on the second shelf of your rack. Yes, I do recommend buying a rack for this, but if you don't have the space, you can sit it on top. So let's dispense with the power supply for now. This is where the real party happens. This is the unit I sat in front of at Munich, and it seemed a lot smaller there, a lot bigger here. We have this beautiful cage on the front of the unit. If we rotate it sideways so I can actually look at what I'm doing, we have this beautiful volume pot with VU meter above it. And not only that, we have the logo, and then we have a slew of connections on the front, as you can see, like that. We start with the bottom one, which is 6.3, 4.4, 4-pin XLR. Full specification scrolling down the screen now. This unit outputs 18 freaking watts of Class A. This is beast mode where power is concerned. Then we have two switches. We have the input selector, and fortunately each click corresponds with the exact positioning of the inputs for the headphones. Here, here, here. Then we have an impeded selector switch for low, medium and high, like so. Then we have this beautiful VU meter up top here with a pair of switch on one side and a pair of switch on the other side. The first one is headphones and then speakers, obviously input, single-ended and balanced. And then we have ultra linear and triode, and this one for soft dynamics and the hard hitting dynamics. I've always had ultra linear and dynamic on top here for me. I do like the triode mode with certain headphones, which we will discuss in the sound section. But predominantly the switches are set like that for me as a rule. Okay, this unit rotating around like this is where we find all the connections. We have the pair of male umbilical cord pinouts here, so the corresponding female will connect with these. very well constructed cables, which we'll look at in a minute. 2 of those with the caps on it. Then we have the speaker tap outs. Bananas can be put through here as well. Then we have the obviously balanced out and single-ended out. Seeing as this is a single-ended amplifier, that's just for convenience sake. Predominantly most of the time, balanced has been what's been used here. Rotating the unit around seems very ergonomic and light like this because of the great feet design. Actually, CAYIN, I really am impressed by that, so thank you. Now we're gonna gently, very gently lift the cage off of the unit like that and actually place it here. For the tube selection, we have the very first tungsten KT170s for the output tubes, 6SN7s for the inputs, and a pair of rectifiers here, which I've not rolled. These are the stock ones. Full list of tubes scrolling down the screen. But I have rolled quite a few 6SN7s for this specific video. DianaDZ has been one of the headphones. Thank you to Abyss for sending this in for review. The Immanis, thank you Danny, I very much appreciate it. The Susvara Unveiled and Susvaras, thank you to Hifiman. And a slew of other headphones. Meze, thank you very much for the Lyric 2. Plus, obviously, Ryan, you're a legend. Modhouse Tungsten DS. That is the unit. If you're familiar with the CAYIN HA300 Mark IIs, or if you're familiar with the HA6A, both reviews will be down below. You will be quite familiar with this. This is the transformer behind the unit. I would say this beautiful wood surrounding the unit is extremely well constructed. My little worry is with the cage and with the skin of the transformer. Is so shiny. Honestly, I really just like buffing this thing a lot because it does show finger marks and stuff, and that is my only gripe with this unit, that the skin is too shiny. That goes for the cage as well as for the transformer cover. What DACs have we used with this and what headphones? I'll just mention the list of headphones that I have tested, but the DACs have been the Horizon 360 from Lampezzeta. Oh yes, we put a €55,000 DAC on this unit. The Meta 2024. Oh yes, we did put a €50,000 DAC on this. Thank you to Idion. And G-Point, you're an absolute legend for getting us in touch with Idion in the first place and opening the doors for the Lampezzeta Horizon 360, and obviously the Poseidon, the Cyan 2 in the lower category, the Wandler from Ferrum in the lower category, etc. So we have put this unit through its paces where DACs and headphones are concerned. It has been put through about 1,000 hours break-in, and this unit has gone through its paces. What are the first few things we should mention immediately? So let's jump onto the sound characteristics and the sound of the amplifier itself. First of all, this unit takes quite a while to warm up, though it does sound pretty decent after an hour. This unit took my breath away at Munich, but there have been some changes ever since we actually got the full public release. They have had to tweak some of the transformers and they've tweaked some of the tubes. I think they used the JJ ones originally, now it's tungsten. And not only that, there's just been a few other tweaks here and there in regards to the internals, which has led me to reconsider this amplifier and basically start afresh and completely get rid of my opinions of what I thought about it at Munich. At Munich, predominantly, it was HM1 solid state speed and resolution with a touch of the AIC10 Riviera's textural information and tactility. Has it lost all of those? No, it hasn't. It's not gained anything new, but it's sort of taken a step to the side and a little bit down and a little bit up. It's not exactly that unit, so I have to assess this as it stands today. So there were a lot of comments from me and impressions and stuff about the unit at Munich, obviously in the Telegram chat, and I do apologize, my review and my assessment is a little bit different because this is quite a different sounding unit in comparison to that. Seeing as that was a prototype, it's no longer in existence, it doesn't matter. What is on the table is what matters, and first of all, is it a good amplifier under 10,000? It's an exceptional amplifier under 10,000. That is the first takeaway. What are the other amplifiers it competes against? It competes against Envy with Western Electric tubes and Brimars, in my opinion, after a bloody long break-in, and it competes against the LTA Z10E as a tube amplifier. Those are its competitors. Is it better than those? In certain areas. Is it worse than those? In certain areas, which we will discuss now. How does this unit sound? The Soul 170 is a solid state sounding unit. It's got a lot of familiarities with this beast next to me, the MezeAudio WA33 JPS Elite. It might be some of the fastest, most resolving tube amplifiers on the market, despite of, is it very organic with that? Are there more organic tube amplifiers in the solid state sounding category? Yes, but they're 3 times the price. $7,500 versus $24,000, for example, the JPS Elite with Takusaki, Urugami, whatever the hell these tubes are. I always forget the name. I do it on purpose. It pisses my boys off in the chat. So, reference sounding, solid state sounding, ultra quick, some of the most craziest dynamics, tall image, but like watching IMAX in the first row. Its depth information is a lot more closer to your face, but what it does do is actually deliver a size of instrument that is very rarely seen in tube amplifiers. AIC is one, if you're familiar with that from Riviera, where instrument sounds enormous, though the stage is intimate. This does not have an intimate stage in its constriction of the surroundings around the song. No, it's a very open, wide, tall sound, but thrown in your face. It's very unique, and when you listen to it for the very first time using Hifiman and Susvaras, your jaw is kind of on the floor because it's doing things that it's familiar to those 300B tube listeners like the Envy, but instead of having everything thrown away at you, it's closer to your face. So you're actually taking a little while to get used to how this sounds. Dynamics, speed, resolution is some of its most breathtaking parts. At the same time, even after 1,000 hours, I find the treble region on all headphones a little fatiguing. It's a bit etchy sounding in its treble. It's not as texturally smooth and rich in its treble region, and that's what bothers me about this amplifier. The stock tubes on this are very resolving. The way it's been paired is an extraordinary achievement. I don't think you're going to find an amplifier, even LTA Z10E, to be as quick as this. I think Z10E is definitely as resolving as the Soul, without a doubt. This is no competition in my mind. They are just as resolving each other, especially if you're using Shangri-La Senior on the LTA Z10E. You don't get degradation of that signal, but the speed, I think, might take it. HA300 Mark IIs is definitely more texturally rich than this unit. This is more of that reference sound. So if you are looking for somewhere in the middle of tubes and solid state, stock tubes, without rolling or considering that aspect for now, this is extraordinary. This is doing a very, very good job. It's got 18 watts of power, but its low end is not tonally dense the way it was at Munich for me for Susvaras. It feels a bit like the X9000, where you get sub-bass extension, incredible speed, but the weight seems to be a little lacking, and I couldn't wrap my head around it until I contacted CAYIN and said, was there many changes over the unit at Munich? And they stated yes, there were. So I don't think it's a limitation of power at all. I don't think it's a detriment of degradation, but it definitely is different. I want you to bear that in mind. That's Susvara OG. Susvara Unveiled can be driven on pretty much anything. It's very, very easy to drive. I'm not worried about that headphone at all. But Susvara OG, for most people who have never heard things like AIC10 Riviera, WA33, Red October XL, etc., you'll be fine. You won't even notice. This is not for you. But I have been getting a lot of comments about this, whether it's worth selling the AIC to come back down to this so that you can save 2/3 of your cash. Would I lose out on anything? Because I did state this could be and has the potential to be an AIC10 killer, and not quite. I think it had the potential previously. If I only had this amplifier and only this amplifier, would I be happy? Yes, I would. I would be happier than having the Envy, and I would be probably not second guessing myself too much from the AIC10 But that has electrostatics and stuff, so that is a bit more versatile. This is more predominantly for dynamics and for planars, etc. It has a very good low signal noise floor. It's exceptional for that. Good control of the volume pot, except in one case where you do get jumps. So when you go to 80 dB and you're rotating the volume pot, which is beautiful, smooth, and it's probably one of the nicest I've seen sub 10,000 without a doubt, you do get like a bit of a 3 dB jump, not a smooth rise beyond a certain point. So it feels as though, like a faucet, you got this narrow hose like this up to a certain volume, and then suddenly goes like this, and then it steadies out, and then it suddenly goes like that. So it's like somebody's opening double doors as you're going down a corridor. Very widely spaced out, don't get me wrong, but there are specific little jumps. It drives all headphones pretty well. There are better performances to be had at 3 times the price, and I think sub 10,000, this is exceptional. Let's talk about some tube rolling. I rolled all of these tubes, as you can see scrolling down the screen. Thank you to Greg, I really do appreciate it, and to PS Vane. Going from that solid state sound, you can squeeze warmer tonalities out of this unit, but not by much. It's akin to just changing the rectifier on a tube DAC, where it just gives you enough of a flavor for you to identify a good change. I don't think the characteristics of the KT170 really changes too much, but it seems to balance out everything else very nicely. Using tungsten on this, due to the high voltage it's capable of, it's probably some of the best experience I've had for those hard to drive units, which are very high in its impedance and very low in its sensitivity. That is probably a better performer, honestly, for tungstens than I would say AIC. I would go as far as to say that. Its bass response was tremendous. Tonal density and speed was very, very good on this unit. If you buy this, I think you're set for life, unless you're one of these people that constantly likes to change units. This has been in ultra linear mode. Going to Triode here, it adds more texture, more tactility, more textural information, and it smooths things out. Certain headphones that have an emphasis on the treble region or a sharper treble actually benefit from this significantly. I'm thinking of Utopia OG, where it will smooth things out a bit more, tame things a bit, but you do lose a little bit of resolution. It's not as forced detail down your throat, but you really do get a more musical experience with certain headphones, and sometimes it takes that away from headphones that are good in the ultra linear mode. Susvara's I kept in ultra linear. It was very dynamic. In dynamic and ultra linear together like this, very good. This sort of smoothening of the dynamics with this switch here, nearly or almost nearly ever used. This was good for the Head 2, where it's just ultra sharp in a lot of areas and ultra high transients. It's just kind of like this edge of attack is just fatiguing after a while. Let's do some comparisons with its brethren. I think the CAYIN HA300 Mark IIs is a sweeter sounding mid-rangey amplifier compared to this, but I don't think it has the technicalities of this at all. I think this is a definite class up. I think versus the AIC10 Riviera, AIC10 Riviera is more tactile, texturally rich, and more weighty in the bass response, in the sub bass especially. Mid bass, this does a very good job, but sub bass is suffering a little bit for me. I'm gonna keep coming back to this. It's definitely not the weighted experience I had previously, and I'm a little disappointed. And I'm putting $55,000 DACs all the way down to the Cyan 2 at 1,000 on it, and I am missing a little bit of that weight and visceral impact of sub bass and actual weight here in the chest. You do get good extension, you get good speed, but that is missing a little bit. This is where I would say the Envy suffers from the same thing a little bit too. and that sharpness in the treble region where it's a bit etchy, even with Brimars and 300B Western Electrics, I found that slight sharpness on certain headphones definitely there. This does get rid of that, or most of it, after about 8 hours of being switched on. So maybe it's not quite broken in yet. I mean, 1,000 hours is a lot, but Transformers, you never know. So it's something we can come back to later and see what the experience has been. So yeah, I would say LTA-Z10E definitely has a weightier sub bass for me, personally. Definitely. The rest of the frequency response, I think texturally I'll probably give it to the Envy over this. It's a bit more tactile, but this definitely takes it over Envy for detail, for speed, for resolution. Without a doubt, this trumps Envy very hard. Versus LTA-Z10E, I think it could be a boxing match here, a very heavy one. Instrument sounds much bigger on this than the LTA, and instrument sounds much bigger on this than pretty much a lot of amplifiers in the solid state category. I would pick this over Bliss, but yeah, it is twice the price. I would pick this over Ore and Hypsos, yes, twice the price. I would definitely pick this over Enloom 23R. This is an exceptional amp. So in conclusion, should you buy this? Well, if you're looking for a tube amplifier that performs like a solid state with the ability of being able to change a little bit with tube rolling, absolutely. This is probably the dog's bits at the moment, under 10,000, and it does a very good job, especially for those of you who only have one tube amplifier or one amplifier that does everything. It's a good umbrella amplifier. And I think, to be honest with you, just using the stock tubes, you'll be good enough. You'll be more than good enough. But 6s and 7s, especially like the PS Vein, which adds a bit of that tonality and lushness, all of the details will be down below, could give you that, which is what you desire from the CAYIN HA300 Mark IIs. And there are NOS tubes aplenty for 6s and 7s for you to tube roll. CAYIN, 4 Tigers out of 5 for this. It would have been an instant 5 Tiger if I got a replica of the one at Munich. Maybe in the next iteration, but this is an exceptional amp. Honestly, very few things wrong with it, especially at $7,500, and I recommend shopping around. You might be able to get a good deal. This is a beast mode amp, and I don't think you're going to be too disappointed.